Okay, let me catch you up. Earlier today, we were live breaking some news. Apparently, TMZ reported that there is going to be an arrest, but not of D4VD, actually of a grand jury witness. Now, immediately when I talked about that during the live, everybody came in there and said, "Is it SF?" No, it's a female. And apparently, it's a female that's being represented by the same lawyer that Rob Morgenroth is being represented by. So the only thing I can assume that this is a witness that might have been in D4VD's camp. It doesn't make sense to believe that it would have been witness for the family. I don't know. People were assuming that. But, anyways, if you missed that video earlier, we did talk about that earlier. I'll link the video in here. Now, before that news broke, I was actually editing the video where LA Mag is talking to Geragos on the phone. And I really just I wanted to understand what was going on. The words were all crazy. So I'm like, well, let me see if I can edit this video, make a reaction, and add a little transcript to it, because you hear Mark Geragos give some information. It sounds like it might be exclusive to Mark Geragos and LA Mag. So I wanted us to review that. That's what this video is. Now, I know that Law and Crime also did a video, so we'll probably review that tomorrow. But for now, this is what we have. Let's go. We're going to go ahead and review it. Now, I think Mark Geragos gets on the phone right about the 14:08 minute mark. I learned this later on, but I didn't know that LA Mag was owned by Mark Geragos, and I believe Lauren Conlon works for LA Mag as a reporter. So I think that's why we see her. She has her own YouTube channel, and then she also does this. Now, there is no transcript ready, so we're just going to review it, and the closed captions are not ready.
The amount of evidence, though, that prosecutors have, this is where my head starts to spin. Do they have enough evidence to continue to present to an investigative? Hold on, he's calling me. Hi. Oh my gosh. Okay, that is so weird. You know what? Why don't I just put you on speaker right now? I'll put you in the microphone if you want to do that until I don't know what you did last time, but hold on. All right, let's put Mark on speaker. All right, I'm gonna put him all the way up. All right, Mark, say something.
Mark is here. I apologize. I was actually having somebody give me information on the grand jury on a case that you're very interested in.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, and go on.
Do you know?
So there's going to be some information here about the grand jury. Hold up, and I'm going to try to slow this down. Yeah.
Case you're interested in such a wide swath of cases, but it had to do with the grand jury that has been started in LA on the Celeste Rivas case.
Well, that's what we're talking about. So, yeah.
That's interesting. So, from what I'm told, there is a active grand jury. They've had, I don't know how much of this you've already reported, but apparently they've had witnesses coming in and out. And so I think my podcast partner, Harvey, was reporting that one of the witnesses was complaining in the hallway to the rest or to the lawyer and was being overheard.
Yes.
Right? Is that
yes, I just reported that. And
well, isn't that Rob? I think that's what was said. It was Rob.
So, well, wait. So I'm glad that you're saying this. So that's Robert Morgenroth, the GM of Mogul Vision, allegedly, that was complaining. But Mark, is this an investigative grand jury or is this an actual grand jury?
So it's on the 13th floor at the criminal courts building. If you go down the hallway, there is an entrance for the grand jury. The grand jury meets in there. They can be investigative. They can be a non-investigative. All grand juries have investigative power. We have grand jury subpoenas issued. They hear from witnesses. I wouldn't read a whole lot into it because LA is significantly different in the way we use grand juries than New York is. New York generally is more the federal model where grand juries can do the work instead of what's called a preliminary hearing. In the state court in California, almost all cases after an arrest and a filing goes by way of a preliminary hearing.
But I guess my question is that my statement is an investigative grand jury cannot result in charges or an indictment, but a regular grand jury can.
Yeah, but in this case, don't get mad, Lauren. It ends up becoming a distinction without a difference.
Well,
because, for instance,
okay.
if the DA is using the grand jury, the cynic in me would say that the reason they're using the grand jury is because they're more interested in trying to figure out what's happening without public scrutiny and trying to identify who, if anyone, is liable. And the reason that they're probably doing this, like I said, I'm just hearing scuttlebutt.
Yeah.
The reason they're probably doing this is because LAPD is at a loggerhead or at odds with the medical examiner. And that's what's really going on. That's driving everything.
Wait,
it's
wild.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
It's very wild. People were saying, weeks ago, I was saying there's something out of the ordinary here. And I was saying it publicly because you never, in my experience, doing this over 40 years, see a medical examiner basically trying to be transparent and law enforcement at odds with that. My interpretation is that the medical examiner is not singing the same tune as the LAPD. And that's why LAPD went in and tried to get a judge a month ago.
I think that's an assumption, though, right? I mean, do we know this for a fact? I know he's got sources, and I'm sure he's talking to somebody, but just curious.
To shut down the medical examiner. They were not successful, then went in again within the last 10 days, and they were successful.
I guess I just want to put this in lay terms to make sure I'm understanding what you are thinking. You are thinking here that this grand jury, whether it be regular or investigative, you think it's being convened in order to keep this case close to LAPD's vest so nobody hears about this investigation as to not leak information. So they are having this investigation done via grand jury just because type of.
Okay. I think that's a good question.
Correct. But what they don't understand, and it's kind of quaint in the thinking, what they don't understand is that you can't parade witnesses in and out of the grand jury on the 13th floor and not expect some enterprising reporter or person in this day and age to see who's going in and out. It's not like New York or DC. I've done this in DC, where I may go in with a witness or a client and we may go into underground parking. Nobody ever sees it. You get into the grand jury, you get out. Nobody ever knows it. This is so unusual. And they haven't historically had this problem or this issue. And this is what makes this so unusual to my mind.
Wow. I'm shocked, I guess, but I guess this grand jury, it was reportedly convened mid-November, Mark. So you're telling me it's still going on right now.
Yeah.
Correct. And what they're doing is
I think we assumed that it was mid-November for sure.
There is an argument. I'm sure if there are ever charges brought or filed, somebody's going to argue that the grand jury was being misused, so to speak. I mean, that's a common argument.
Yeah, right. Okay. I mean, have you heard anything about Hochman and his response? And what have you? I mean, I think you have a relationship with him of some sort. I don't know if he talks to you or anything.
Oh, she's talking about Nathan, the big DA out of LA.
But no, I have not talked to him about this. I do know the deputy, I haven't seen her for a while, who is reportedly handling this grand jury.
Okay.
I've known her actually since she was a baby DA in the juvenile court in Pasadena.
Oh.
And she is a force to be reckoned with. and I won't call her out by name because she's in the middle of this, but I will tell you that she's a no-nonsense, although she's kind of fun.
You're talking about Beth, right? I mean, that's who they're talking about, Beth Silverman?
She's a no-nonsense, take no prisoners prosecutor. And so the reports or people who have told me that she has grilled the hell out of certain people who've been in there, that does not surprise me in the least. That's her style. That's her MO. She's a formidable foe.
Okay, so you think she was assigned to this case for a reason, because she's going to rip everybody a new butthole, so to speak.
Well, I had said early on, I think to you, that given the profile of this case, it will land in major crimes. And there's only, that's the creme de la creme of the LADA's office. And I mean, that's where people want to be. You kind of aspire to get into major crimes. And she's one of their superstars.
Okay. Okay, got it. Now, have you heard any other names besides what I mentioned, which is Robert Morgenroth of Mogul Vision?
Yes, I have heard of two other names. And one of the interesting things.
Two other names.
That I think one of the people you know was saying that they had been dragged into Department 123.
Yes.
And
one of the people that you know.
Once again, purely speculating, Department 123 is basically the courtroom for the assistant supervising judge, and sometimes the judge who's supervising the grand jury will use it. That's usually grand jury related issues, so it would make sense. And in addition to that, it would not surprise me, and like I said, I'm purely speculating, if people are going in to testify, generally, if they're considering themselves getting grilled, for instance, that would usually mean they're there under a grant of immunity. If they're then going into Department 123, they're being compelled to go there, that usually means there's some problem with the immunity. Either the agreement's not broad enough, or the person is being told in not so uncertain terms, hey, you've got an immunity agreement, you got to answer this. I don't think you're answering truthfully, because.
So I'm going to add some subtitles to this, guys, because so he's talking about based on the rooms of the courtroom really determines kind of where you go or what happens here. If I'm understanding this correctly. And like I said, I'll add subtitles when I edit this, because I think it'll be helpful to kind of follow along. It's kind of hard to follow along, and the closed captions aren't ready, and the transcript isn't ready to this video.
One of the things with immunity is you get a free pass, so to speak, on anything you testify to, as long or until the prosecutor thinks you are not telling the truth. That's where the rubber hits the road. That's where your immunity agreement can be undone.
Okay, so I mean, he made it very public. The person you're talking about, Steve Fisher, he made it very public on his Twitter. He's leaving updates as well. He thinks, he just didn't realize why he was being summoned to this room, but that I guess would make sense. Obviously, it's grand jury related. Steve pointed that out. He did not say this specific case, but guys, my speculation, I think it would be pertaining to this case that he testified in front of an LA grand jury. But he made it seem like he had, they had said, you're not allowed to talk about this or anything, and et cetera, and that he went out and started blabbing, and so he was summoned, basically. And he said,
Let me tell you something else. One of the great misnomers and one of the urban myths, if you will, is that grand jury secrecy means that a witness can't talk about it. That is complete, with a couple of exceptions, complete bullshit.
So the people that are saying he wasn't supposed to be talking and that's why all of this is happening, I mean, you're hearing it from Geragos, if you like Geragos, right? Or if you believe what he's saying. Geragos is saying like that is a misnomer, complete BS. So yeah, Steve pulled a case law on this as well.
That's my legal.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Okay.
That's interesting. Okay.
The prosecutors are limited as to what they can say federally under Rule 6 and state-wise under certain code sections, statutory sections.
Mhm.
But the witnesses aren't. You can't tell a
Yeah.
witness, coming in, you're coming in here, I'm going to testify, and you can't talk about it. It's nonsense.
That's what I thought. So that and I think Steve was confused too. And again, I haven't spoken to him in detail about it, but you make a lot of sense. I go back to Courtney Burgess after he testified in front of the Diddy grand jury. He's yapping on News Nation the very same night, right? So
Correct.
yeah,
Correct. And by the way, there were to my
Yeah, that is correct. I remember. Y'all remember when it said that Ariel Mitchell and Courtney staged that TMZ meetup outside of the courthouse, and then he did that News Nation interview the following day or that same night, and he was able to speak. So yeah, like that does happen.
Point about the misuse of the grand jury, there were a lot of people, myself included, who were complaining that the grand jury was used inappropriately in that case.
of course. Yeah. And I totally get it because you had a lot of people yapping. But okay, so wait, so that's one. So we've got two people now that we are surmising, or
I think there's actually more. I think there's four.
well, what do you? Hello. Oh, you're okay. Sorry. So do you have a third name that you can share that you have seen or?
Well, it's not that I could share because I think that would probably betray who I was talking to.
Okay.
But
fair.
I don't think it's surprising.
Okay. I mean, is it Josh
surprising.
Marshall, the manager? I feel like it would be him. I saw
Yeah.
that on Reddit too, but I wasn't sure where this person got the information from.
Yeah, I won't. I'm not going to play 20 questions.
Lawyer, just like
kudos to you for trying to get me to do it.
yeah. Okay, so this is definitely different than what I had originally thought. What we all, even the LA Times, had originally reported. I mean, the way that we thought
The
this,
LA
yeah.
Times, was that a James Quealy article?
I believe it was James, correct? And look, Mark, they only knew. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, they only knew about this grand jury because they received received the document of the LAPD, that the document about the keeping Celeste records sealed, and at the top of that document there was a grand jury number. So the LA Times.
I think it was really accidental how the LA Times found out about it and they started looking into it. I've heard this as well, was that there was a GJ, which like the GJ grand jury, and then there's the number that follows.
It was like, oh, okay. And then they did some digging, and then this is what they came up with. So it just, it's just different than what I think we all thought.
Yeah, James is good that way. He's got a pretty good handle on the courts. That's why it would be him figuring it out in that sense. Quite a bit of sense to me. But back in the day, the LA DA, and it's funny because I've often compared the current DA's office to being very similar to, I famously during Menendez kept saying it's the 90s and they want their DA's office back.
Oh, funny. God.
This happened during the 90s with OJ. In the OJ case, they went to the grand jury. There was all kinds of shenanigans involved with the grand jury, and they ended up going to a preliminary hearing, which is the standard operating procedure. But, institutional memory is short. That created all kinds of problems for that case, which ultimately led to an acquittal. And it's kind of ironic that fast forward, as we're complaining that it's a return to the 90s, that arguably they're making similar mistakes here.
Yeah, I mean, do you think they have a reason to call members of Celeste Rivas Hernandez's family?
I bet.
Is that typical for a case like this, or I guess a grand jury?
I'm pretty sure they would have called. family members, right? Because maybe even interviewed if any of the family members knew what was going on.
Case like this?
I can think of a number of different reasons that you do this for a grand jury. If you wanted to have people build out a narrative for the grand jury as to who she was and kind of where she was in her life, I understand it.
Okay.
You also, arguably, could be creating a timeline. So you could call in witnesses and you would say, okay, your mother, brother, sister, when was the last time you heard from Celeste? On what date? How did you hear? What did she tell you? Those kinds of things could come in. They may not be able to be admissible in some instances later on, but certainly for purposes of the probable cause proceeding, you might be able to get it in and say I'm admitting it for a non-hearsay purpose.
Okay, and do you think that law enforcement, I know that they have to verify all of these weird videos and photos floating around the internet of David and possibly Celeste when she was 14 years old. I mean, I'm assuming that those videos are being shown to a grand jury as well. I mean, I just keep thinking like they searched his home, you know, they obviously searched the car, but how much of his I guess his devices do they have? How much, you know what I'm saying? Like, what do they have to show a grand jury when it comes down to it?
Well, this is what I do know. They have done an amazing job from what I'm told with the constructing of a timeline and cell phone records and social media IP addresses and geofencing style locations. They've got reams of information that.
So he's telling us that they have a lot of information, clearly not available to the public, but everything from social media to phone records. I think that's been the question that we've all had, like, what about Celeste's phone? I'm pretty sure they've been ahead of that for sure.
At their disposal. So they've gotten search warrants, they've issued grand jury subpoenas, they've got a whole kind of panoply of things that they have done so that they have constructed an amazing timeline involving not just her, but others, including those who have, what was reported, reporting what the DA was cross-examining about. That all rings true to me. I mean, rings true in terms of what they would be looking at. And what they would be looking at, in my opinion, is why didn't any of the people in the circle here who knew her or came in contact with her, why didn't anybody call the police?
Okay, and just to clarify, are you saying the LAPD plus the DA's office have this great trail of cloud information, cell phone information? You're saying combined, the departments combined.
I bet.
Correct.
And are you saying possibly that, and I guess this is sort of part of the process, if somebody testifies something, let's say 3 weeks ago to this grand jury, can they go out and get a subpoena like that week? Or do you have to wait until the end?
No, you can get it. You can get it before they testify.
Oh, you could get it at any time. So do you think there's a possibility that David has already had to turn over his cellular devices or his?
My understanding is that they can move forward with charges at any time. So that's why I'm like, okay, well, if they have all this, it does make you wonder, what is it? When are they going to move forward with what they need to do?
Cloud data?
It would not surprise me if they already had all of that stuff and they got it through the providers. And that would be not standard operating procedure, but it would not be uncommon. Meaning if your carrier is AT&T and you've got an iPhone, for instance, they would go to Apple and the iCloud and they would recreate your phone.
Wow. It's crazy. I worked a case, Mark, where a mother whose son was deceased, she went to get her son's information from AT&T, and AT&T told her that she couldn't have it because the NYPD had, I don't want to say what's the right word, they had not jurisdiction over it, but they basically were working a case and couldn't release it to her.
Similar from when they seize, for instance, a car that is a supposed instrumentality in a crime, and you're the owner of the car and you're trying to get your car back, and you have to jump through a whole lot of hoops, and you got to get a detective to sign off, they always invoke an ongoing investigation. That's kind of the default position for a prosecutor if they don't want something revealed. And we come full circle to what they did here in this case by going to the judge in the criminal courts building in the Claire Chartreuse Foltz building and getting an order after they were thwarted the first time. And I would bet you a couple of lattes that they invoked an ongoing investigation.
Wow. I mean, I'm learning so much right now. And I know, you're obviously speculating based on your expertise, though. You've got, you are in it. You are still in the trenches there. You are very familiar, with the LADA's office and how they work. So
I do agree. I think Geragos is very familiar with how things work there. But, that's just my thought.
This is so eye-opening to me. I have to tell you, I do feel a little bit better about, I guess, the progress here in this case. I do, I gotta say.
I mean, it's not even so much about the progress, right? Like, I think we know that the case is moving forward. It's just that, is it moving forward to an arrest, a charging document? That's really what we want to go at, right?
I've heard cynics say, and I don't think I buy this, that the grand jury was open in order to get the judge who wouldn't issue the order against the ME the first time for them to say, okay, now there's a grand jury investigation, judge, so you got to issue this order. Cynics are saying that's what happened. I don't know that I buy that. I don't think that would be a page from this particular DA's book.
Yeah, I don't know either. That's I don't know. That's interesting. But I just thought about this also. I don't think we ever heard anything about Celeste's cell phone, where that was, I didn't hear anything about that. So I'm guessing at this point now, Mark, they definitely reached out to her carrier, right? And was like,
time ago.
We need all the info here because I'm right.
I'm going to speculate again. If she had her own dedicated phone.
Oh, Lauren, I'm going to need Lauren to put the speaker on the iPhone is on the bottom. Put it to the mic. That's where we will be able to hear because it's so muffled. But I'm going to add subtitles and hopefully we'll be able to pick up what's being said because I don't even know if the closed captions will and the transcript's not ready.
She was a minor. I think her parents' rights. And if the parents were cooperating, they would have had it earlier. Then that makes it a little more difficult for them.
Yeah, I'm speculating, but I kind of thought maybe David bought her a cell phone if they did, in fact, have a relationship and he paid for it. But let's also remember, like a burner phone can also be like an old iPhone. It doesn't have to be some weirdo flip phone from the 90s,
Correct.
Yeah, you could still get info. What's that?
Do anything. You can get it in any way, shape, or form. It's astonishing to me just in the last 5 years how I remember doing a murder case. I think I told you this once. I did a murder case about 12 years ago and cross-examined the cell phone expert, and he was kind of a monkey. And since then, what they've been able to do and the kinds of technological advancements are astonishing. It's truly.
Yeah, stop. I'm like, we really can't hear, but she got to turn the speaker to the bottom. But now you kind of hear him a little bit.
Yeah,
what they can do now, what they couldn't do before.
Yeah, and speaking of tech advancements, I had initially thought that based on how many cameras the Tesla had, Mark, that they would know who put Celeste's body there. They would just see on the footage. So I guess it's kind of like, what are they seeing on these Tesla cameras? And could the footage have been erased? Can you turn the cameras off? Maybe you can. I don't have a Tesla. Does the footage, does it erase itself after 30 days? Like, what do they have here, or what do they not have?
Well, next time you have me on, I haven't confirmed something, but I have a suspicion that I'll wait and confirm, and then I'll give you some input on that.
Oh, a suspicion about the Tesla, you think?
Yes, about the Tesla.
Okay, that's interesting.
and how that impacts the questioning and who they're calling into the grand jury.
Oh, so you were going to confirm your suspicion perhaps and then share it. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So
Well,
back with me tomorrow.
oh yeah. Well, okay, wait. So is there anything, before I let you go, is there anything else that you think that we should know? You know, I'm just like, I feel like I have to go play this back, transcribe it, and then I've got to do a total write-up here, you guys, for LA Mag, because this information is so helpful to me to understand this, and I think it will be helpful to everybody. So yes, Mark, anything else before I let you go and we rehash this?
No, thank you. You're really doing amazing work on this.
Oh,
kudos to you.
stop. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, all right. Well, just text me. You know, I can relay the information to everybody, even if you don't have time to jump back on. So, and everybody says thank you, Mark.
You got it. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Talk to you later. Bye.
All right. So that was the call that I was interested in listening and reacting to. Again, you guys, this is the LA Mag, Los Angeles Magazine Videos, which I believe is owned by Geragos. And my understanding is that Lauren actually works for LA Mag, which her boss would be Geragos. That's my understanding. But yeah, if y'all wanted to listen to the full call without my interruptions, please do so. However, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to be editing and adding some, text to it because it was very hard to follow. So a couple things I guess that we learned, right, in terms of how they operate, the grand jury, witnesses being interviewed, what Geragos said about, witnesses for the grand jury being able to talk. I don't feel like SF is in trouble or anything like that for that. That's my understanding. So, I mean, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.